gentlemen, this is your community. This is your voice.
The people's voice. DC, where the people rise and speak. Real conversations, changing lives. Together we can lead. It's the people's voice. DC, your voice matters here. From every ward and every block, the people's voice is clear.
Yeah. We talk about the issues, the stories that inspire, building stronger communities, taking DC higher.
Education, housing, the things that shape our days, lifting every voice up, creating better ways.
Stand up, speak out. Together we are stronger. Stand up, speak out.
The future starts right now.
It's the people's voice. DC, where the people rise and speak. Real conversations, changing lives. Together we can lead. It's the people's voice. DC, your voice matters here. From every ward and every block, the people's voice is clear.
No matter where you're coming from, your story matters too. When neighbors work together, there's nothing we can't do.
Real issues, real solutions, real people taking part, building hope across the city. One conversation start.
This is our city. This is our time. Together we'll shine. The people's voice. The people's voice.
Every voice matters, every story counts.
People's voice. The people's voice. It's the people's voice. DC,
Thank you for joining us here. Running as an independent. Good to see you out of Ward 6. And we were just talking a little bit off camera, but this is not your first foray into politics, as you had a lot of people who supported you as a write-in candidate last time around. You're going through this again, and this is going to be a year of change because we know Mayor Muriel Bowser is not running for re-election. How would you differentiate yourself from what we've seen for the past 12 years as the executive of D.C.?
I believe amongst my candidates and my opponents, I should say, I'm the only candidate that's been on the ground in the trenches with the citizens. I'm the only one that's been calling for the accountability, to be honest with you. I am the one that's been preparing legislation and trying to bring the solution as opposed to just raising the problem. I believe that while we watch the wealth gap widen on my current opponents' watch, while we watch housing costs rise for working class families, the rapid gentrification of pushing families out of the city, I have been in the trenches, and not many of my opponents can say that.
What is the number one issue right now in 2026 for Washington, D.C. and for its taxpayers?
Absolutely, the fact that we still have taxation without representation. The threats to our home rule and our ability to be able to govern ourselves are very grave, and I can't imagine any of my opponents not agreeing.
And to that, would you, as mayor of D.C., be willing to work with the President of the United States?
Absolutely, we must. We're the nation's seat of governance. I believe that we have opportunity to bring the president back to the table and help him to understand what true leadership looks like, to really fight for the over 700,000 citizen voices who deserve to have representation on a level that they're not being over-policed, on a level that they're not worried about our city being taken over. I believe that the president is able to be made to understand why that's important. My God, he went halfway around the world to rescue another set of folks that were under siege, so to speak, from leadership. And I would imagine that the president would understand that district residents feel the same.
To that point, we've had a federal surge of National Guard, of ICE agents, of DEA, of all sorts of law enforcement on the streets of D.C. In what he called was one of the most violent cities in the world. The numbers have shown that the surge did in fact help. But how do you get D.C. under control with less crime, and at the same time, would you support the D.C. Police Department?
Well, absolutely. Let me say this. I believe that in order for D.C. to actually maintain its sovereignty, we need to demonstrate that we can run our own affairs, and that means police our streets. I would imagine that the D.C. that the president showed up and found is not the D.C. that we're going to move forward with. I believe that leadership makes a difference, and I've watched this president show respect for real leaders. And so the reality of our MPD being able to do their job, we just fork quite a bit of money out of our budget towards getting that personnel beefed up in order that we can take over our matters. The Safe and Beautiful Operations Center that the mayor previously put in place, we don't need that. We don't need that. We feel that the resources could be better used in other areas. We believe that our legal citizens should not have their communities, they shouldn't be harassed in their communities is what I'm saying. We don't want our citizens to live in fear. And we absolutely believe that D.C. should be safe and beautiful, which it will be under the proper leadership.
It seems as though you don't see eye to eye at all with a D.C. mayor from what I'm hearing. This is not, you would like to see a change here.
Yeah.
Did she have success? What was it, and what were the failures in your estimation?
I believe that our mayor had a plan to be able to improve the city. What I believe and where I believe she felt was leaving the citizens behind. When you have an imbalance, when you have an 81 times wealth gap, when you have housing costs being upwards of 60% of working class income coming in, when you see folks being pushed out of the city, when you watch the child poverty, youth poverty, I should say, and seniors who are concerned of being pushed out, I would believe that she's left much on the table, and we've got to correct that because we have folks that are coming to D.C. that are having a different experience, more so than folks that are rooted here.
How is an independent candidate, how do you break out and break through? Because you've got a contested Democratic primary.
Welcome, welcome, welcome to this edition of the People's Voice DC. Hey, that was our dear Madam Dr. Rhonda Hamilton live on Fox 5. How are you today, Madam?
I'm doing wonderful, Michael, and thank you for inviting me back to the People's Voice D. Pleasure to be back.
Yes, hey, look, we just finished our Democratic primary, and as folks will say, now it's your time.
That's right. That's right. It is absolutely, or say it's showtime.
Come on here, come on here, come on here. For those of us who don't know who you are, please introduce to us who Dr. Rhonda Hamilton is and why you decided to run for mayor.
Wow. Well, it is a pleasure to be before you. As I've just said, I am Dr. Rhonda Hamilton, and I'm a third-generation Washingtonian. I am the proud daughter of a military man who served in the Army, who's no longer with us, but his values and ideologies still hold true in his legacy, of which I am his only child. And I'm excited to come forward and fight for the legacy that is mine, as many of our DC residents are rooted in their legacies. And so what has brought me forward is after a decade of doing mental health outreach work in the community, in many cases showing up as a first responder with so many of our families in crises, it became evidently clear that we had a mismanagement in the resources, the allocation of the funding, the lack of proper oversight for so many programs and agencies that have been failing our citizens. And when we look at the stigma surrounding mental health, whether we're talking societal or systemic, we saw so many families and individuals of the district that were just failing and it caught up in cycles. We had repeated attempts to galvanize our citizens to the oversight hearings, to prepare legislation, propose legislation to get our folks to look at other ways to bring policies that could be better enforced and that would close loopholes that were allowing so many travesties of our violations of our policies and laws. And so I came forward because what we realized was that the local voting numbers were just ridiculous. We had more people showing up to vote than those that were on the sidelines or choosing not to vote. And we realized that tend to get emotional when government isn't working, but I don't think we recognize the consequences of not exercising our power to vote until after the fact. And so I came forward because I believe that if our citizens recognize real, authentic leadership and a message that could resonate for their everyday lives, then they would be motivated to come forward and get back involved. And so I came forward betting on my citizens of DC, giving them another choice because in the nation's seat of governance, the polarization of politics is pushing far too many away from the table, and we need them at the table in order that we can come back together, unify, and stand together and take our house back. So I came forward to help fill the gap in the political conversations that we seem to see growing wider.
I totally agree. And that brings me to my first point. I wanted to show the people something I saw on the website. You say on day one, after being elected as mayor, I will immediately call for the District of Columbia's government, council, and the previous mayor's administration and systems to be audited to determine the level of competency and or corruption upon which funding decisions have been and will be made on behalf of our quote unquote struggling and unhealthy district citizens. That is certainly something that I totally am in agreement with. And I mean, what led you to feel like this was so important that it needed to happen on day one?
Well, we are in the fight for our autonomy, and at the core of that is whether or not we as a district have been able to represent the type of leadership that would allow us to go into a meeting with the president uh, eye to eye, as opposed to on our knees. And the reality is that I'm going to inherit a lot of what has brought us to this point, and I did not want to go forward as a responsible leader not knowing. I believe that our systems have represented a fragmentation of what's needed in order for the agencies to work together. I believe that we have many employees, at least I am aware of quite a few employees from various agencies that want to speak out, that want to blow the whistle. Many have, and many are still been suppressed because they're concerned about being retaliated upon. And so, what I've realized is that we're going to have to bring the type of leadership forward that is going to allow the president, the Republican agenda, and anyone else at Congress understand that under the wrong leadership, that their agendas and policies may have some sort of uh, relevance, but under the proper leadership, we reserve the right to be able to govern our own affairs. In order to do that, we must start anew. We must have a reset. We have too many agencies failing. We have been pushing out far too many of our citizens. We still have far too many citizens sleeping in the street. Our youth have been attacked and are under siege, in my opinion. The over policing. We must stop the advancement of this current president and Republican agenda because they're operating under our current leader administration. And that would not be fair to our citizens who are going to go to the polls on November the 3rd and exercise their right for democracy here in DC that does not include the overreaching of the federal government or the president. And so an audit would be, I would say, a way to reset, provide transparency, and to start to remove a lot of the systemic failures that our citizens continue to bear the brunt of.
Totally agree. We talk about systemic failures. That's something that sticks out to me when it comes to the city's leadership since after Marion Barry left. It's kind of been a little iffy and a little sticky and a little some things we don't tend to agree on, some things that leadership don't tend to talk about. But
Hmm.
your current opponent, I guess, right now, we know Madam Council Member Janice Lewis George has won the Democratic
Hmm.
primary, and
Hmm.
she speaks on some of these inconsistencies and failures of the Bowser administration. So I would think that you guys are kind of on the same page with that. So what kind of what separates you two in your opinion?
Well, I love that question and thank you for it. I am of the belief that hindsight is 50-50, right? And so if you're serving for 6 years as my opponent has, I would imagine she has an awful lot of time to be able to help us legislatively to steer clear or to help rein in the failures of Ms. Bowser. The truth of the matter is, I can't imagine anyone who served on this administration, given the state of affairs in our city, that should not also be held accountable. And as I continue to come forward, right now we're in the midst of securing our signatures for the ballot. We've been averaging about 100 signatures a day, and we are not yet at the 30-day mark. So we have until August the 5th. So I say that as a preference to forgive me for being a little reserved in my commenting, because I want to make sure we're on the ballot to make sure that our citizens and my opponent understands that we did not come to play. We're certainly going to hold them to hold her. I'm sorry, to the task of her voting record. We're also going to talk to her a little bit in the space of uh, her belief that she's been championing causes for the people. The truth of the matter is that in 6 years of her serving, her leadership has not risen to the forefront. And now, ironically, now that we're in an election, we're hearing a lot of the things that politicians tend to come forward and tell us. But we are in need of accountable leadership, and we're certainly going to hold my opponent to that.
Awesome. Okay. Can't wait to see you actually get on the ballot. We looking forward to that this year. We're looking
Awesome.
forward to that. You brought up homeless, and there's something on your in your plans that kind of stuck out to me. And you talked about the peer navigation initiative, the Rhonda Hamilton administration homelessness peer navigation initiative. Peer navigation plays a key role in providing motivation and encouragement for those facing the many challenges of homelessness. You go on to say that your administration will deploy peer navigation efforts to assist DC residents residing in shelters or unsheltered settings. So I don't want to read the entire excerpt. I want to encourage you online. You can visit Dr. Rhonda Hamilton's website at Rhonda Hamilton, the number 4 BC.com. If you want to know more information, it's also on the screen.